Okay, here goes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for you who joined from last week, and also thanks to everyone who's new this week. Really appreciate it. So, this week's Parsha, Behar Bechukotai. Have you ever thought there's 613 mitzvot in the Torah? 613. How many of those mitzvot, commandments, are we actually able to keep today? There's so many mitzvahs that pertain to being in Israel, pertain to Kohanim, pertain to different times of the year, pertain to having a Beit HaMikdash, but how many actually can we do today? So Rabbi Yeshaya ben Avram Horowitz, otherwise known as the Shlach HaKadosh, who lived in the year 1555 to 1630, in Prague, I think he lived in. He goes on and he lists the mitzvahs, and he says there's actually only 369 commandments that a person is able to keep today, which doesn't seem quite a lot. And he says something really beautiful. It says in Shir HaShirim, in the Song of Songs, it says, Ani yeshena v'libi er kol daydi da'ifek. It says, I sleep, but my heart is awake. As the Jewish people were sleeping, but their heart is awake. And the numerical value of yeshena, of sleep, is 365. Now, if you work on the numerical values, you have 365 plus the actual letters, which is 4 letters, which make 369. That 369 is the mitzvahs that the sleeping galus, that the Jews in exile are able to keep. But he goes on further and he says it's actually just 270 mitzvahs that every single person like me and you and everyone is able to keep, because either if we're not a Kohen, if we're not living in Israel. So the actual only mitzvahs that we're able to keep right now, right today, is 270, the ones that we really can do. And the Sefer Chinuch, Rabbi Aaron Halevi, points out that the 270 is the numerical value of awake. So right now we are in Golus, we're in an exile where we're not able to achieve and do so many mitzvot. But what's beautiful is the 270 mitzvahs that we're able to do is that we're awake, that we have a desire, that we want to do these mitzvahs and achieve a beautiful connection with God. So in this week's Parsha's Behar Bechukotai, in the beginning of the second Parsha that we're going to read, it says, in Bechukotai Teilechu. I'm going to try sharing a screen so you can just see the words, in Bechukotai Teilechu. Let's go for that. Okay, let's see if you can see that. In Bechukotai Teilechu, ve'etz mitzvotai tishmoru v'asitem otam. This is talking about this. This says, if you go along in my statutes, if you go in my connection to Hashem, and if you guard my mitzvahs, and if you do them. Now it seems strange, the Torah is so careful in the words that it uses. Every single word, there's not one extra word in the Torah. So why is it trying to give us 3 different types, or 3 different ways of explaining, of teaching us to do mitzvahs? So I want to share with you a beautiful Kedushas Levi. It's Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Beditchev. I've actually had the honor of being there in Beditchev with Jonathan. It was a really, really spiritual trip. It's a beautiful experience to be able to go to these graves of such holy tzaddikim. He lived in the year between 1740 and 1809 in Beditchev, which is now Ukraine. He's such a powerful, powerful Jew. And he goes and he asks this question of what's those superfluous words of the 3 ways of doing mitzvot. And he says he brings a Gemara in Kiddushin. This Gemara in Kiddushin says, Machshava tova, a good thought, mitzarfa lemaisa, kind of connects, it joins in and becomes a deed. And it's a beautiful concept in Judaism that our thoughts, our desires, our wants actually fulfill to eventually become a deed, become an actual mitzvah. And he says, even if we're not able to do the mitzvot, if a person has a desire, a person really wants to do a certain mitzvah, he says it's as if he's done it right away, because this good thought, if someone's walking down the street, you see an old lady about to cross, and she's asking, please help me, and you're rushing, you want to help her, and someone else gets it before you, you're rewarded as if you have actually done the mitzvah. And it happens in every single mitzvah. If you have a desire, you want to give some certain amount of tzedakah, the charity, but you don't have the ability to do it right now, but you want it, you're rewarded as if you've actually done it. And also the Gemara continues, and he says, which is really beautiful, that it doesn't work for negative commandments. It doesn't work if someone thinks, I want to do a bad thing, I want to do a sin, and they actually don't end up doing it, something prevents them from doing the sin, they're actually not punished, they're not accountable for the sin that they wanted to do, unless they went ahead with the sin, they went ahead with that deed, and to the thought behind it, they're actually punishable for. They're accountable for. So we see from here, Hashem is desiring our effort. Hashem is desiring our thoughts, our wants, our will behind to do it. Behind the reasons why we're doing this. As you say, when someone gives a present and you're feeling it's not such a good present, you kind of say to them, it's the thought that counts. It's the thought that counts. In materialism, it's not really the thought that counts. It's very sweet when you say the thought that counts. But in reality, when someone gives you something, when you're giving someone something to your spouse, you want to give something decent, not just say, I'm thinking that I really want to buy you a new mansion. But here's a pencil, just because the thought that counts. It doesn't work. But in the Torah, if a person has a true desire to actually want to achieve, want to do an extra mitzvah, it works. It really works. As we say, when someone finishes a masechta, there's a siyum. And there's words that we say, we work, on our melim, v'heim melim. We work, we put effort into our actions, and they put effort into our actions. If someone wants to become an accountant, they can study as much as they want to, but if they don't succeed in their test, they're not going to achieve it. With the Torah, the more we study is what helps us and what enables us to achieve the mitzvahs. What helps us achieve our greatness in our connection to Hashem. As it says in Pirkei Avot. It says in Pirkei Avot, I'm going to do another share. Let's see if we could get this one up. It says in Pirkei Avot, Ben Azai Omer, Hevirot le mitzvah kalaka v'chamora. Run to do a mitzvah, like a seemingly light mitzvah, as if it's a heavy, intense mitzvah. Uvarech min ha'avera, and run away, flee from transgression. She mitzvah gereres mitzvah. A mitzvah causes another mitzvah. V'avera gereres avera, and a transgression causes transgression. Shescha mitzvah. A reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah, and scha avera. Now, just to explain this Mishnah, which is really powerful, is something that could seem seemingly light. It's in our minds to think, to study so much Torah, to do so much greatness, to do such big acts of connecting to Hashem seems so far. But he says, even look at the smaller mitzvahs. Look at something even like seemingly light in your eyes. If it's just putting on tefillin, some people could be hard, but some people could be very easy. Putting on tefillin in the morning, or just saying one chapter of Tehillim, or any mitzvah, even if it's helping your neighbor, honoring your parents. If we tried our best to do it with what would seem easy for us, we would be encouraged, and it would help us to do many more mitzvahs. As Rabbi Nachman, I've got to bring in Rabbi Nachman here. As Rabbi Nachman says, when he talks about mitzvah, gereres mitzvah, one mitzvah causes another mitzvah. He says it's the excitement in between the mitzvahs. Like when we do a mitzvah, it's the excitement that builds within us that encourages us to do another mitzvah, to have that excitement. And this is the concept of telechu, of going. That's why the beginning of this parsha says, if you go along my mitzvahs. What does it mean going? Like Torah is compared to water. Water flows. If you think, if you desire, and if you do my mitzvahs, you will be constantly going and achieving your greatness and your journey towards a life of feeling fulfilled in your service of Hashem, and also service of who you are as a person, as a soul. He brings a Gemara in Megillah. He brings a Gemara in Megillah, and in Megillah 28b, and in Nida 73a. And he says this, and we actually say it every single Shabbos morning in davening. Tana Dvelia Kol Hashana Alachat B'Chol Yom Mutach Lo Shahu B'Olam Haba. The Gemara concludes the tractate with a general statement with regard to Torah study. It says the school of Elijah taught anyone who studies halachot every day is guaranteed that he is destined for the world to come. As it is stated, his ways, his halachot are eternal. When it says in Habakkuk, in the prophets, it says halichot, his ways are eternal. And the Gemara changes the words because it's exactly the same letters in the word. Halichot of ways to halachot of laws. If a person would study the laws, meaning contemplate why he's doing things, think about it, get into a mitzvah, try to work his mind. Why am I doing it? Build a desire in my soul, in who I am, to want to achieve greatness in connection to Hashem. Then a person, as it says here, it says, Shehu b'olam haba, he will be hopefully achieving the beauty in the future world, the world of peace, the world of Mashiach, the world of tranquility in the final redemption of this world. And it's a beautiful thing. It's in the DNA of a mitzvah, the ability to want to do more mitzvahs. There's a concept of ta'amuros, taste and see how beautiful the mitzvahs are. And if we do something that seems small, we just keep on doing it, and it's like a fire. Mitzvahs are like a fire. It will build our soul, it will build us up in order to want to do more and want to achieve such greatness. Like a fire just goes higher and higher and higher. And that's what kind of we want to be achieving in our life as a person. And it's not just mitzvahs. It's not just a mitzvah that we do that we think is connected to Hashem, like, davening or doing a mitzvah like putting on tefillin. It's also benotam lechavero, between man and man. There's all many mitzvahs that man have between man that one is able to do, and through doing that, one is able to achieve that connection with Hashem. Constantly higher and higher. And that's why it says, and then it continues, and you guard and if you guard my mitzvahs. Rashi says over here is talking about guarding as in studying the mitzvahs in order to do them, which is a similar concept. It's a similar concept where if we study the Torah, we'll think about it, we'll contemplate it, and we'll be able to achieve the actual mitzvah to be able to do it. And what's really beautiful, we sing every single Shabbos in Shul, we say, Avinu Av HaRachamon HaMerachem. And that is a really beautiful prayer, which discusses study of Torah. And it says, Avinu Av HaRachamon HaMerachem Rachem Aleinu. Have mercy upon us and put into our hearts to understand and to comprehend and to listen and to study and to teach and to keep and to do and to preserve all the words of the study of the Torah with love. And I was going over this with my dear father, who's listening to us now, and he was explaining to me that the most important word really here is with love, with ahava. Of course we have to learn, we have to study, we have to do, but it's with love, with passion that we really need to be doing these mitzvahs. We need to be achieving our connection with God. It's not just about the action, and it's not just about the study. It's about putting our everything into it in order to really feel it. And I want to share with you, and through all of this, then the end of the pasuk says, "Vasitem otam," you'll get to do them. You'll actually get to do them in actuality. If a person contemplates, thinks about it, and desires it and yearns it, starting as small mitzvahs, a person will be able to achieve so many mitzvahs in his life. And I want to just go on to an Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Baghdadi, who lived in Baghdad, of course, in 1835. He was born in 1835 and lived until 1909. So he says this, he talks about there's three kinds of mitzvahs. And we all know these three kinds of mitzvahs. There are mitzvahs that everyone understands, that everyone gets, right? Honoring parents, we get it. Like, it makes sense. We'll do it even if we're not commanded to do it. There are helping someone across the street. There are mitzvahs that we get, that makes total sense, and we'll do them no matter what. But then there are mitzvahs that we understand them. Like, let's say, eating matzah on Pesach. We understand it's commemoration for our past, for being in Egypt. In certain mitzvahs, mezuzah is as a protection. We wouldn't do it if God wouldn't tell us to do it. But we do it because Hashem tells us, and we see there's a reason. But then there's the ultimate, kind of like the highest of mitzvahs, which are actually called chukim, which are statutes, which are mitzvahs which we don't understand. There are certain things which we do in relationships in life. If we're in a relationship, there are certain actions we do which sometimes might not make sense to us. But we know if we do them, it makes sense to them and they appreciate it. So same too with our relationship with Hashem. There are certain things which we just kind of do. And we know is appreciated and it encourages us and it makes us into a better person. But we just don't understand them. But the Ben Ish Chai says something so... When I read it, I was like, what? It was amazing. So he says, it's like a secret. It's like a gem of the Ben Ish Chai. He says, how is a person able to fulfill every single one of these 630 mitzvahs? As we said in the beginning from the Shlach HaKadosh, he says, there are only so many mitzvahs that a person, 369 or 270 mitzvahs a person can achieve, can do in this world. But he says a person is able to fulfill every single one of the 630 mitzvahs. And it's going along the same thought, the same theme that we're discussing now. He said, if a person who yoshev, a person sits and contemplates, studies, and builds within himself a desire to want to do the mitzvot, if he wishes that he truly can. It's like if I sit there and I study and I work out what does it mean to sacrifice, to be a kohen in the Beit HaMikdash. What does it really mean? Then I'll actually be able to one day to achieve that. Not just, I won't be able to achieve it because I'm not a kohen, but I'll be able to kind of receive the reward and tap into the energies of who I am to achieve my growth in life through as if doing that mitzvah. So he said, and not only that, he says, which is crazy, he said the person can achieve 630 mitzvot in one day. And just a thought that comes to my mind, we know on Shabbat, you get rewarded like, I think that's 10,000, 1,000 times more for every mitzvah that we do, because Shabbat we have an extra neshama. So imagine if a person spends some time on Shabbat thinking about all the mitzvot and wanting and yearning. And of course, you can't fool yourself. I can't fool myself and be like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. If you really try to get it in us, how amazing is that? My father was telling me, Rabbi Noach Weinberg would actually, the rabbi from Asia Torah, would encourage his students to just study by heart all the 613 mitzvot. So they're able to kind of, even if you're not able to think about each one of them, but if you know them, then a person's able to really kind of tap into the energy, because each mitzvah is not a restriction. It's not something coming to burden our lives. It's something to beautify and purify and make our lives so beautiful and pretty. So that's the Ben Ish Chai, enabling us to really do all the mitzvahs. And he says it applies to all three categories. The ones that we don't understand, the ones we do understand. Even if, if we want to donate a building, we want to do something big for some organization, we want to give to the United Hatzalah in Israel. If we think, I want to do this, I really want to do this, come on Hashem, I want to do this. And also prayer. Prayer works by having a yearning and a desire to change within ourselves to achieve what a mitzvah would do and to make us grow into a better person. And then just to end off on the Ben Ish Chai, which is so beautiful, and he goes like this. He says the next pasuk we read after this first pasuk we just explained, it says, "V'nasati gishmechem be'itam," and Hashem says, "I will reward you with rain, with crops. I will give you so much." And there is this concept of Judaism, which is schar mitzvah b'hayal maleka. The reward of a mitzvah is not in this world; it's in the next world. We're in this world, as to work and to grow and to become much better people. But much better people. I'm just got carried away. So the Ben Ish Chai says something so powerful and so beautiful, and he says the reward is in this world that we receive from doing a mitzvah is that we're able to do more mitzvahs. That we're able to do a much bigger mitzvah. That we're able to achieve so much more in our mitzvahs in growing and connecting to Hashem. So if we truly desire to do the mitzvahs, and then we actually fulfill them in actuality, we're going to be showered with all the blessing in this world to do more mitzvahs, to grow and to make us into so much of a fulfilled, of a content, of a happy person to be able to tap into the godly world. So just to end off, a person's able to achieve all of these 630 mitzvahs. A person's able to achieve the greatness in the world, in life, as a Jew, connect to Hashem, connect to his soul, to who he really is, by trying his best to think about the mitzvahs, to contemplate, to yearn, and of course, how to get this to study. And it's never too late, and it's always good to just, whenever it is, and 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, to study as much as we can, because mitzvahs and connection to Hashem is the most beautiful thing in the world. And if we just taste it and we try our best to achieve that, then Hashem will give us the merit to be able to connect to all of us as brothers and sisters, as Jews. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening, and I wish we all have a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh, and try and spend just a few minutes just thinking about beautiful mitzvahs. I love you loads. Enjoy. Thank you. Any questions or anything?